another evolutionary mystic meditation master interview. And I'm so thrilled to have with me today the fabulous, the talented, the extraordinary Miss Jacque Kane, Jacque Kane, Jacque Kane. She is one of my favorite people in the world, and she is an amazing healer. And our topic today is healing ancestral karma for your joyful and pain-free life. And she is, I call her the pain whisperer, because she is a master at helping people heal from any kind of pain, whether that's physical pain, emotional pain, mental and psychic pain, spiritual pain. She's even having extraordinary results with golfers. And not only helping them heal their pain, but actually improve their golf game. But that's a whole nother episode on Oprah. We're going to focus on ancestral karma today. So, Jacque, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And so just to dive in, Jacque began her healing career as a radiologist or a radio technician.
Yes.
And then in 2000 became a body worker, just as that was my path, through body work, and has expanded her toolkit and toolbox of healing modalities over those many years. And now we're dealing specifically with the techniques around healing ancestral karma. To help people to really move into that joyful place and to really transcend and transmute all the different kinds of pains that keep them stuck in their life. So, Jacque, I'm thrilled to dive into this with you today.
Thank you. Me too. It's my favorite topic.
Yeah, great. So, what's the number one thing that you want people to leave our talk with today?
The number one thing is understanding that fear is the most important thing stopping people from stepping into their power. Mm-hmm. Not only just stepping into their power, but if they're not stepping into their power, then it's affecting their health, their cash flow, their relationships, everything in their life is affected by it. Mm-hmm. No matter what they do, no matter how many coaches they hire, no matter how many programs they purchase, they won't be able to live their soul's purpose. It really, really holds them back. So when people understand what's the fear that's holding them back, and then is that fear mine, or is that ancestral? And am I carrying my mother's fear, my father's fear, somebody else's fear, my husband's?
Yeah, generational fear.
And generational. It's understanding whose is it and how can I release it?
Right. Okay. So, as we start to unpack, healing and transforming ancestral karma, I just want to ask you, what is karma? How do you define that?
Karma is understanding that all our thoughts, our actions do create a chain reaction of events, of fallouts. And is it the fallout that we want, or is it bringing us off our path? Everything we do causes a chain reaction, and it depends on what we're creating more of. And we always have a choice. Nothing's good or bad. I've been through things in my life. You've been through things in your life, and nothing's good or bad. It's just, how did I handle it? And what did I learn from that?
So what I heard you say is that the way you define karma is that every thought, every emotion, every choice that we make, every decision that we make has consequences, has a chain reaction. And are those thoughts and those choices, are they based from a place of love and in alignment with our soul purpose, as you said, or are they based in alignment of fear, as you were just describing? And are those negative consequences that ripple out through every area of our life, or are those loving consequences that equally and powerfully ripple out?
Right. And the ripple effect, also, what do we get back?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so what I hear you saying is that the soul is sort of like I'm imagining a lighthouse or a broadcast tower, and what we're sending out, comes back to us. And if we're broadcasting fear, from a place of deficiency in our lives, then we get more of that. If we're broadcasting love, divine love, then we get that.
Yeah, and each of these emotions have different vibrations. You speak of that when you do your trainings and your programs. And which vibration, which frequency are we living our lives at? Because that's what we're getting more of. So if we're living our lives from fear and worry, especially worry, because I deal with a lot of women who are in physical pain and emotion. Underneath the physical pain is emotional pain. And most of these women, they worry constantly. So if we're going to worry about things, worry about our children, our family, something's going to go wrong, our mind will just create more of that. It's kind of like the law of attraction. We continue to get more of that. And then when we feel that and we step into owning our power, well, again, you're still vibrating, but you're vibrating at a higher intensity, and you're attracting more of the more amazing things that your soul really, really desires. And we'll bring you more of that.
This is so fascinating, Jacque. So, you mentioned, okay, the outer symptom that some of these women are feeling, their physical pain, chronic physical pain, and that underneath that there's an emotional pain. Yeah. And I know from other conversations we've had that even underneath that emotional pain, there's a psychic and spiritual pain, that they are divorced from their true selves. They're divorced from their soul purpose. They're divorced from who they truly most want to be in their heart of hearts. And that separation is driving, it's that continued self-abandonment and self-betrayal that is causing this outer symptom. Oh, this physical pain, I've got, knee joint pain, or I've got hip pain, or I've got, diverticulitis, or, whatever that pain comes from. But you can really begin to excavate that. And what I'm hearing you say is you start with the emotional pain of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've all known people who have gone through one therapy or had one surgery, and they're not getting better. They're only getting worse. Why is that? Right? Because that's not healing. The physical body is not always about doing something to the physical body. It's looking at the emotions underneath. That's what's driving the physical pain. And until that gets resolved and talked about, they'll just keep going in that same direction.
All the surgeons in the world, and you're still not going to get to the source of it. They're going to keep cutting away until there's not much left to cut away.
Right.
They're still the source of the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about how you define and explain ancestral karma. So we talked about choices and consequences and that ripple effect.
So ancestral karma is anything that ancestral karma, we carry all when we are conceived, we carry our mother's energy, not only hers, but the father's and all of our ancestral line. So me personally, I always grew up with this level of fear and anxiety in my body. And I've meditated with Indian masters. I've done psychotherapy. I've done all kinds of coaching and programs, and you name it, I did it. But that level of fear, I never got to the root of it until I realized, until I did an ancestral clearing, which caused a profound shift in me. And I realized the fear that I was carrying wasn't mine, it was my mother's. Because she grew up in Sardinia, Italy during World War II. My grandmother was home. My grandfather was off fighting the war, while my grandmother was home with the 3 children, worried about taking care of them, worried about German soldiers in her neighborhood. And that level of fear and anxiety, I can only imagine how much she must have lived through and felt and taken on. And that went down into my mother. My mother still lives her day with a lot of fear in her body. And when back then nobody talked about it because they were so afraid, they were just trying to survive. They didn't really want to talk about what was really happening because that would have made it even more real. So that emotion of fear, I mean, where did it go? They all suppressed it, suppressed in their bodies, in their cells, in their nervous system. And that's the emotion that's driving a lot of pain, especially with women with like fibromyalgia. I mean, that is all about suppressed emotion in the body. So that was my history with living with fear. I just thought everybody was afraid. And then it wasn't until like years ago when I'm like, oh, really? You don't have fear? No, I'm not afraid. I'm like, oh, must be me.
Well, I think that's a topic for a whole nother conversation because I think some people might be in denial. But
Yes.
so, the question I'm hearing you say, so I really get how an experience that your grandmother had and your mother had, gets, repressed and stuffed into the body. But is there a spiritual component or a spiritual anatomy component to these emotions that get frozen?
Well, I think that young child who, when you're raised with a mother who she can be closed off with her heart, that you lose sight of who you are and you create different personas of who you are, that aren't even yourself. We all put on that mask. Well, some of us put on that mask thinking that we have to be a certain person in our family. And you go through life like that when you're, and again, that brings on certain events and situations to prove that true. And it could be sad and frustrating for a lot of women who feel that they can't be themselves. You can't, they have no idea what they even enjoy because we've spent our whole lives trying to people please and try to be who other people think we should be and give and give and give.
So that's one signal that someone might be a clue. Oh, it's the clue phone for you. You might have some ancestral karma operating here. Is that they're a chronic people pleaser?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's one again, self-sacrifice, self-abandonment. They're sacrificing who they are and what they most want and need to please other people.
Mm-hmm.
What else about ancestral karma do you want to share with us?
Well, first, how it's affecting your health, and then any beliefs that are keeping us stuck, because our beliefs really are the big driving force. So sometimes people will just have beliefs and not realizing that they really aren't their own. It's just the family.
So what was the belief that you had that you'd inherited from your mother, having survived World War II and, the fear of the fascist, fear of the Nazis, and the fear that, she could be an orphan, and so you inherited that through her body and her nervous system and her beliefs. What was the belief that you had about the world that was, causing you this sort of fear and anxiety that you lived with?
Many. One was that I did everything wrong, and that, and I've watched her because I now take her to a lot of her doctor's appointments, and we went through one experience with one of her doctors, and I saw her start to crumble that she did something wrong and she was going to get in trouble. And I think I lived my whole life with a belief that I do everything wrong and that everything's my fault. Not that I do everything wrong, but everything's my fault. So constantly saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, instead of sending back that energy to somebody else and saying, no, you did something wrong,
right,
and owning it,
So I want, this is an important distinction to me. It's like, so this sort of chronic belief, oh, I did something wrong. But was there in there someplace that belief that, oh, because I do everything wrong, I'm wrong? There's something wrong with me. Was that even a deeper belief held in there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And as we pull away the layers, that's the final belief was I'm wrong, or I'm not enough, or I have to learn something new. I'm not good enough. All those beliefs are the underlying core belief. That is really painful for our soul to hear on a daily basis. And that's the real sadness of the whole thing, is that we're really hurting and punishing ourselves in the mind when we think these thoughts.
Right. So I'm going to use an extreme example here, cutting, particularly young women
Yeah.
but men too who are cutting themselves. Um, and that's an extreme physical example of that. But what I hear you say is every time I repeat that thought to myself, every time I believe that thought and take an action based on there's something wrong with me or I'm wrong, it's like
Yeah.
it's cutting to the heart of the soul.
Yeah. It's very painful.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, we're taught to just ignore our feelings or ignore words. Words can't hurt you. I remember when my kids were growing up, we had a friend who said, "Words can't hurt you. They're just words." And I'm like, "Oh my God. No, it's terrible." And not to feel your feelings, you know? We've learned at a young age, stop crying, get over it. Like, no, I'm angry and I want to be angry. So let that child just express that anger and go on instead of stuffing it in our bodies. I
Right.
see it all the time. It's so sad.
And maybe one more thing that you want our listeners to know and understand about ancestral karma.
Well, you clear it, then you get to be free of I call the baggage that we inherited, and create your own karma. Finally step into your own soul and discover who you are, what you were put on this earth to do, to be, to receive, and the gifts. You get to open up your gifts because for a long time you didn't think you had gifts or you didn't think you had a purpose. So when you finally, and that's what my clients get to do once they heal all the sadness and the grief that they've been carrying around from themselves, from this lifetime, and along with the ancestral, they get to discover their own gifts. They get to be creative and have more energy and live pain-free and vacation, drive long distances pain-free. There's just so many things. There's just so much energy on the other side, right?
So what I'm hearing you say is that that this ancestral karma that we've carried really since inception, since we were a fetus in the womb, and certainly since we were a baby, that this ancestral karma can be healed and can be cleared. And it's cleared from the body, it's cleared from the heart and the emotions, it's cleared from the mind and our beliefs, and it's cleared from our soul, from our spiritual anatomy. And what I hear you saying is that to have a real profound shift in healing, you have to address all of those, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so that's so important. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the piece that's missing when we don't heal our bodies. So.
Right. So, as we sort of bring our interview to a close, and do stay to the end because Jacque has a wonderful free gift and invitation for you. So what's the number one thing that you want people to take away from our talk? We've been talking for 20 minutes here. So what's the one thing you want people to leave with?
To know there is a way out, and it is possible for them to step more into their power when they get clear on what fear they are living with and realizing that it's not theirs, that they can let it go. And the sooner they do that, the sooner they step into their own power of living their life from their soul's purpose.
And so, and with your work, you've explained to me that the very first step that you do with your clients is a soul activation meditation. You guide them through that. And that's the first step in this spiritual healing for ancestral karma. And so tell us about the free gift that you have for every one of our listeners today.
Yes, for everybody listening, I have a free meditation. It's a soul activation meditation, and it's a soul clearing and activating meditation so that you can connect to your soul, clear away the limiting beliefs and the negativity in your physical body, and connect to your soul's purpose, and then send that essence out into the world, because the world wants to see all of you. So that's my free gift to all of you.
Right. And I've experienced this meditation, and the sensations and my experience was that, it's not just some guided meditation, but there is something that really is activated in all the dimensions of my soul, from the gross level of my body all the way to the most subtle layers of my soul. So it is a really beautiful and powerful meditation. So I'm going to show you the link right here, and I will also post it in the text above this video and in a comment below it, so that you can click it and you can go and receive Jackie's soul activation meditation. But you also have a special invitation for our listeners as well. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. I would love to help people heal their ancestral karma. So I'm offering a $100 discount for any of the wonderful Alan's tribe of mystics who want to take me up on that and clear their karma. Usually I charge $400 a session. I'm giving you $100 off, so it's $300. In this session, we are going to peel away the layers and get very clear in your own ancestral karma of what needs to get cleared, and we will clear it in that session.
Right.
For anybody who wants it.
And so in that one-on-one session with you, having experienced your work, you do a nice check-in. You start with that soul activation meditation, but you get very personal and specific into the ancestral karma, into the emotions that that person's holding in their body and their story and their beliefs, and you clear away the layers of that is specific and unique to them.
Yes, because we're all individual and we all have different ancestral karma that we've walking around with. So it's each session, one-on-one session, is very specific to each person. And we have a conversation and we go very deep into pulling out exactly what each person needs in that session.
Right. Right. Well, and you just sort of pointed to something. It's like, oh, there's multiple sessions. So it's not like one session is a miracle drug or a magic pill. There are layers and layers of clearing this sort of karma. But certainly, in my experience, just one session was a profound shift. You actually tell a story about when you experienced this work for the first time, sort of a whole magical chain of events that happened.
Oh my God, yeah. So the first time, actually, you did a session, and when I walked out of that session, my son, my in-laws are from Ireland, and we had talked about doing a family trip to Ireland, but nothing was concrete in stone, and we weren't even sure we were going to go. And then soon after that session, my son called me and said, "I found a house, we're going." And that led one chain. The ripple effect was incredible. Not only was the whole planning of it, because before that session, my in-laws weren't even planning on going. They were like, "Nope, we're not going." This karma clearing happened, and soon after, it was beautifully laid out how one thing after another, everybody got involved. In the trip itself, my in-laws still relish in how amazing and wonderful and fun it was. It was profound. So it's something that I've taken on, and I do it with my clients. And every time I even continue to do more clearings on myself, my children show me that this work is profound. I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my ancestors that came before me, and for my children and for my future grandchildren and children from there on. It is profound. I can't, every time there's shifts. So
right.
It's amazing work.
Beautiful. So, well, thank you. That's our time today, Jackie. So just a reminder for a free soul activation meditation with Jackie. Click the link, go and experience that. And so for those that want to do some one-on-one work with you, how do they contact you? How do they connect with you?
They can go to JacquelineMKane.com and opt in to I also have free gifts on the website. And there's an Acuity link where they can sign up to have a session with me.
Okay, great. And so, and just somehow in that signing up for a private session on your website, let them know, you're a mystic friend of Big Al here, Alan D, and they'll get that $100 discount.
Yes.
All right. Well, Jacque, thank you so much for your passion around healing ancestral karma and helping people live into their joy and their soul's purpose and their truest selves, and to really break free of all the fear that causes pain for them. You know, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and even if you're a golfer, it'll help your golf game.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jacque.
Thank you.